the Debbie Perkins Radio Show. And here's your host, Debbie.
Good evening, everybody, and welcome to the Hollywood Red Carpet Radio Show. I'm Debbie Perkins. I'm your host, and I have a great actress. Sonamm Sharma.
Correct. Yes, you got that right.
Show. Isn't this exciting?
It's so fabulous.
To you. So she's just getting her day started with us.
I am indeed. It's like 5 o'clock in the morning in India, and this is a very good start to the day indeed, I would say.
It's amazing. So let's start the show off with, how did you decide, or when did you decide to do acting?
Very interesting question. So I was in England studying a completely unrelated thing. I was a design student. I was doing a lot of odd jobs as a student whilst I was there, and I just happened to sort of travel in the metro one day in London, and there was a gentleman who was very nicely perched in front of me, and he kept staring at me for some reason, and I was like, all right. Maybe it's a good day, maybe I'm looking all right, but, I was really shabbily dressed as well, so I didn't understand why, that look. And so he came up to me and he passed on his business card to me. And I was like, very cool. And I realized that gentleman was a modeling scout, also the owner of one of the agencies, like one of the really popular agencies in London. And they were looking for someone with a particular look that I kind of fulfilled. So I ticked all the boxes when it came to that, fulfilling that requirement. And that's how I started modeling. But acting never happened till then, because I was always in front of the camera, but I enjoyed being in front of the camera. Until one day, when I was back in Leeds in my university, and I was asked to assist a friend of mine who was a filmmaker. And I was assisting, and I was on sets, and, one of the crew members just came and he was like, would you like being part of this? I was like, all right, why not? So I was quite comfortable, I think, I had that, it was like my happy space, and I was really comfortable in front of the camera, and that's just how it happened. And one after the other, I was sort of getting gigs, modeling, I was getting short films, I started doing a workshop as well. I started training with actors because I really wanted to learn the craft. And I started taking some lessons and assisting filmmakers. So that's how it started. Very interesting story. And it came to me. I never really went after any casting director, anybody ever. In fact, it didn't even occur to me. It was almost like quirk of fate, So very... Yeah, that's very interesting.
Really, what kind of like you were at the right place at the right time.
Absolutely. And just it's almost like when big actors talk about how they got discovered and oh my God, I was there and somebody found me, and then how they kind of relive their stories, and it's almost like I'm halfway through that story. I'm like, all right, then something like that happened to me as well. And for an Indian girl, studying abroad, it was fairly odd, because how often do you hear people just walk up to you and say, you know what, you look like something I might want to work with. And it's like, okay, something to begin with, not someone, but something, and then you become like a canvas for the person, and then they dress you up accordingly. They style you accordingly, and there you go. Bam, you got like a couple of spotlights on you. It was very interesting. I it almost feels like a dream, actually, now that I think back. And I'm quite lucky to actually be living that sort of life afterwards.
Now, where did you grow up, Suzanne?
So, very interesting again. I was born in a small town in India, very known for its doctors, apparently, because the medical faculty at the hospitals there is world-class and renowned. It's a state in India called MP or Madhya Pradesh. I was born there, but then I lived most of my life, well, early life, in Delhi, which is the capital city of India. And yeah, so my schooling was from a British school in Delhi. And then I was packed off to England when I was 18. Yeah, I was 18. I'm also a third generation mixed race kid. So my grandmother was partially, yeah, she was partially Afghani and a mix of Anglo-Indian. Anglo-Indian is basically a community in India, which is a mix of British, English, or Scottish with Indians. So there was a bit of a concoction that I was always a bit of a cocktail. So I had the best of all worlds. Very early in life.
You're so beautiful and you're so nice. And it's a wonderful cocktail.
It is. Surely you get to explore so many cultures and and thoughts and opinions and foods, from all over the languages, So it was very intriguing. As I was growing up, I was like, all right, my grandmother speaks completely different language and my mom speaks a different language. And that's interesting. So I picked up on everything. But obviously, English happens to be the fabric of the country, the official language of the country. Our education is all in English, so we're all very comfortable talking and speaking in English in India. So it became very easy for me to then, travel and kind of work internationally as well. So yeah, it's considered somewhat exotic, how like Priyanka, it's very interesting. Very interesting. So my self-worth really went up when I was in England. I was like, wow, I'm kind of desirable here. So I'm kind of on fire here. So it's it's very uplifting, very motivating. Very cool.
Then you get the bilingual, so you can speak multiple languages.
Well, not multiple. I can understand perhaps multiple languages. I can speak English, Hindi, and Urdu very fluently. Hindi, Urdu is sort of our, like mother tongue, so to speak.
Yes.
English is very, very, English is spoken by everyone here. So yeah. So first language is English. Second is Hindi. I did study Deutsch, German at school. Didn't sort of continue through with it, but I can pick up and I can understand German as well. A little bit of German, a little bit of French, a little bit, like bits and pieces of various languages.
That's incredible.
Basically. It's a lot of fun. It's a lot of fun.
Because some of us have one language, a little bit something else, but not like you have.
But that language is spoken everywhere. Your language is spoken all over the world, so you don't have a problem really. It's people who need to speak to you in English. You don't really have to know another language. It's just so universally beautiful and accepted.
And thank goodness for translators, translations.
Oh, lifesavers, lifesavers.
Absolutely. And I had no idea how fluent of English you speak, and you speak very beautifully.
Thank you so much. I was also the topper, we have with our education system in India, and it's a very solid educational system that we have here. And I was one of the high scoring kids when I was in school in English, all India topper. So I got a lot of scholarships for my education abroad because they were like, oh my gosh, she's got like a 95% in English. So it really helped because then I started with English theatre when I moved back to India. I was immediately taken into theatre, and I was always following Broadway anyway when I was in England. I traveled to the US as well. I was there for 6 months in Chicago and to Canada for a bit.
Wow.
So I've very interesting travel life as well that I've led. And, like I said, I've kind of absorbed so much traveling. It's just made me. I think I like to call myself a global citizen more than anything else. So I'm kind of very comfortable in any part of the world. You put me you kind of displace me from here and then you put me somewhere else, and I'd be like, yeah, I'm all right, I'm fine. So and I kind of find my happy space anywhere I go.
Yeah.
It's lovely.
So you're just trying to find out where you're going to fit in, which is for you.
Normally I don't have a problem. It's very easy for me to kind of wiggle my way in and out of places and situations and circumstances, really. So it's not really a problem. But for the longest time, yes, when you are a multicultural, there is this identity crisis that kind of is obviously lurking somewhere in the background, and then you kind of want to know, what are you exactly, Sonamm? Are you this? Are you that? And then I just came up with it. I just thought, I'm a global citizen. I'm someone who can, I'm like a chameleon. I can go anywhere and look like them and speak like them and become like them. Like while you're in Rome, like do what Romans do, kind of thing. That kind of philosophy. And so I was always okay with that. I never had a problem, and I never really faced a problem whilst I was living abroad as well. So it was never really an issue. I think it's also about your vibe. I think people really accepted and received me very well, and they're always very intrigued with the person that I was. And I think it was more about what I had to offer as a person, more than where I came from. And I think that was beautiful, because that made me realize that there are a lot of supportive, nice energies everywhere in this world. So yeah, so it was very interesting. Never had a problem, really. I wouldn't say so.
That's great, though. And I like the way you have yourself set up so that you can do anything.
Yeah, absolutely.
Which is very important. You're trying to do now, which is the filming industry, because you never know. You may have to travel. And now, when you were growing up, did you see yourself in the entertainment industry? Because that's the direction you're heading in. So as a youth, did you think that watching television one day, that's going to be you?
That's you kind of hit the nail on its head, because yes, as a kid, I remember watching a lot of these. So when I was a baby, well, not really a baby, I was growing up, and I used to watch a lot of these shows. So there was a show called The Small Wonder, and it was very popular here. We also had The Bold and the Beautiful and Days of Our Lives. So all of these shows, American shows that used to get telecasted here. They're very popular with the families here. Like my grandmother used to watch them, my mother used to watch them, and I used to watch Small Wonder and everything. And I was like, that Vicky is me, that robot chick, that's me. And I wanted, I subconsciously, yes, I think I was sending that message out to the universe that, what, I want to be on the other side. I want to be somebody who's, who's got, who's flight, and she's perhaps acting. But I never really talked about it. So my younger sister in India, she's a proper actress, like she's a full-time actress. But I was always I was always a good student as well. So I had multiple callings. So very early in life, I started making art. I was involved in music. I was doing, I was a science student. I did very well in physics, mathematics, all of these subjects that were very strong. And I was kind of, so I think there was a lot of this conflict in the family that, what should she do really when she grows up? And I was like, what? I'm going to change the narrative here as well. I'm going to do multiple things, because like they say, jack of all and master of none. I never really believed in that. I thought, you can dabble and you can have parallel careers and you can be good at 2 or 3 things simultaneously. It's just how you manage time. And I think the most important lesson I learned was time management, with all of these multiple callings. And now I'm kind of divided between acting and then, performing, and as also branding and marketing, and basically being an entrepreneur and doing my own thing, all under the same umbrella of the entertainment and film industry. So it's all correlated, I would say, but it was a lot of fun trying to explore, that, I want to do this, maybe I want to do that, maybe I want to do both. And a lot of the times you do get the flack for it, you do get like a little, couple of times eyebrows are raised and you're like, okay, what are you going to make with your life? Are you going to settle down with something? And it's never the person who wants to like, settle down, in the terms of settling down. It was more like, let's just keep experimenting. Let's just keep trying something new. And that's how it, that's how it unfolded.
Your spirit's not ready to settle down.
Absolutely not.
Yeah, you're growing in the directions that you need to be going in for your destiny.
Exactly. I mean, you come across so many people like you on your show. I was going through a list of people who are, policemen, and they're also acting, and then there's some people who are doing something else by the day and something else by the night. And why not? Every skill I feel is transferable. I think, and acting we're all actors in our lives. We're always acting something out. It's just that sometimes we do it for the camera. Other times we're doing it in life. So how's that different? How is that different? So I thought it was always I was always, but that's another thing, Debbie. I always thought I was playing various characters. So even if I was a student, that was a character for me. Or if I were to be somebody's girlfriend, that was a character for me. Or if I am a daughter, that's also a character for me. So it's like I'm taking on multiple roles during the day, and that's just so beautiful because you've got like a diverse range of characters that you get to play out, in the course of your life. And I just thought of it like that, and I think that kind of seamlessly kind of translated onto the calling of being an actor, because when I was on stage, it used to come very naturally to me. It was very natural for me to kind of slip into just, dissociate with myself as Sonamm and get, under the skin of another person's personality. So, and I think a filmmaker or a director always has his eyes to kind of spot who's doing it well or not. So, yeah. So I got a lot of encouragement through the process, of acting.
And I think that's important because your success for yourself is what's going to shine through. And wearing multiple hats in different areas, like knowing these different things, like where Covert happened, people that were actors had to fall back on a different job.
Yeah. I mean, like,
Go ahead. Go ahead.
No, I just thought I'd bring it up because we are in a COVID-ravaged world, and so many people have lost their jobs, suffered. Unemployment has been on the rise. Actors have been completely out of work, internationally, nationally. But there's always a flip side to suffering, and that was digitally the world has kind of shrunk. People have come close to each other, like me and you talking. I'm talking to you from like thousands of miles away. But did we ever think that we're going to have a really cool conversation talking about things that are so common in the various parts of the world? So that's the upside of the pandemic ravaged world. So yeah, sad though, people did suffer,
right?
And still are.
But like you said, taking the positive.
Absolutely.
Out of the whole couple of years that we've all been going through this, we all, you know what it is? We're all familiar because we're all going through it together.
Exactly, and there's no rainbow if there's no there are no rains. So it's always we're through it, we're going. So I did it very interestingly, during the first wave. I did a very cool podcast as well, where I did spoken word poetry for a channel in California as well. And I know that it got released, and it's on my IMDb as well. And that was really surprising. I was like, wow, Sonamm, you have been recognized in IMDb, from a completely different country for doing this. And it's just a wonderful sort of write-up, spoken word recitation about, about how we are in it together. Just like you said, just like you said it, exactly the same script, that we are going through this together. So we're one big fat family, really.
Absolutely. We really are. This is the one commonality we all have is that nobody could escape this situation. The whole was involved. So we all have that in common, like a big family, like you said.
Yes.
And it's really interesting. Now, when you were going through COVID, how did you manage to get through that? What was you able to do with yourself? And was you able to find other things to do to kind of get through the time?
So I have, like I said, I have a sort of a business that I run, which is mostly around branding and marketing. A lot of it is social media based, So while the external world was so disturbed, the digital world was really growing. And I saw that as an opportunity. I was like, you know what? I'm not going to let this bring me down. Let me start something of my own. I'm going to, sail through. I'm going to make it happen. And in the last two and a half, 3 years, I think I've recorded the highest profits. So actually, COVID is like a blessing in disguise for me. And I shouldn't say that. God bless all of us. Nobody should suffer really, but because everybody was in quarantine and everybody was isolated and everybody was home, it really helped. The internet generation. It really helped the internet world. And that's where I started sort of offering my services. I started doing marketing plans for a lot of online businesses, a lot of e-commerce businesses, a lot of free marketing happened, which was, the pre-released productions or, the productions that were still sort of stuck in the pipeline and not finding the release. They found distribution through various OTT channels, and a lot of these interesting things started happening because the world automatically, and all of a sudden moved on to Zooms of the world, and everything became online, virtual.
Yeah.
I actually saw that as an opportunity to grow my business, and it did. It actually did.
That's a miracle that it worked out for you that way. But we were able to use so much more internet at that time. You're so right about that. That's one thing I forgot, is that we got to, so many people were online, that even people that normally wouldn't be on as much were on more. But hang on one second. We're going to take a really quick break, everybody. We'll be right back.
Hi, I'm Pat Benatar. I'm a musician and a mom, so you probably won't be surprised to hear that I think...
The little people, give it up, yeah. Please look for me in a new TV miniseries drama where I portray myself in this story of my life, simply entitled, That's Showbiz. Thank you, you've been a wonderful audience. I love you, and remember, that's Showbiz. Good night.
Welcome back to the show, everybody. We're having a great break, actually. We enjoyed talking to you about your country a little bit. Give us some highlights, if you don't mind, of places
Absolutely.
that people, if they ever wanted to visit, what your country does offer.
Oh my God, there's so much it offers. I mean, I haven't been able to explore it fully myself. But the one disclaimer and the one thing that I always tell people who are traveling to India, just come with an open mind. Just come with a spirit of adventure. It's a wonderfully weird country. It's wonderful and it's weird at the same time. But if you come with that sort of receptivity in your heart, and you come with just an open mind, an open heart, and you're okay with whatever happens in life in a positive way, obviously, it just becomes all the more easier. And India is, it's beautiful because it has a lot of these, so it's culturally very diverse, you know. So there are beaches, the mountains, the backwaters, the deserts. There's everything you can possibly imagine in this one, big fat country, and different people dress up differently. The languages change every 500 kilometers or so. The food changes. Everything is changing with the travel that the distances that you cover whilst you're traveling in India. But a couple of places I must visit. So it's known for its spiritual retreats. A lot of the saints and a lot of these older sort of godmen who came from India. There are all these Sadgurus of the world, and even, people who are even more evolved, who kind of meditated in the mountains. So it's got that energy to offer for anyone from anywhere in the world. You just feel so recharged, and you feel so positively and divinely uplifted if you happen to travel to any of those places. And the beaches, there's a very popular place in India called Goa, which is like a Portuguese-French colonized sort of a city, and it's diverse. It's got people from all over the world. I think less than half the population is from Russia. Some of them are from Portugal, and a lot of other people. So the language that you can speak there is also Portuguese, and then all of these different places really. Then you have obviously metropolitan cities, the largely populated parts of India, which are cities like Mumbai, Delhi. Mumbai is obviously where Bollywood resides. You have Bangalore, you have Chennai, you have Hyderabad. So there's a lot to do here, and you get to, there's a range that you kind of activities that you can perhaps do here, but it really depends on how long you come here for, and what are you coming here for. In a sense, like there's some people who want to visit India just to explore the mountains and the spiritual side of things, and some people who come here for business trips, a couple people who come here for solid retreats. It's a lovely country, very weird but lovely.
Yeah, it sounds amazing. Sounds like such a beautiful country, and
it really is.
And more people should know to go and visit, because it's a totally different type of culture, and this is what you're saying. Every 500 kilometers, something changes. So you're not in the same place all the time, even though you're in the same country. It's really
not
neat.
At all. Yeah, I mean, traveling in India is almost like traveling the world, because it's like, oh wow, I can't understand what they're talking. I don't understand what they're eating. It's like that. It's like, oh wow, it's part of my country, but we can't talk. We can't really have a conversation here. So
amazing. Now, just more filming in India. In the last 10 years, we've been seeing lots of movies coming out of India. Is the career growing for people that are actors in your country? Is that actually growing more? And is that where Bollywood is?
Absolutely. So now Bollywood normally comes from the Bolly term basically evolves from Bombay, which is now Mumbai. And yes, I mean, though major part of it kind of resides in the town of Mumbai, but it's also sort of spread out. There's a whole different industry in South India, which is called Tollywood, and they speak a different language. They have their own sort of stars there, mega stars, superstars. So there's two different industries parallelly sort of existing. The only so yeah, like to answer your question, there's a lot of work for actors. There's a lot of work for technicians, for musicians, for everyone really. But the problem is, because the country is so hugely populated, we are so many of us. We are like a big population. Like, it's not even funny. Like, you don't get a very rarely do you find spots in places where there's hardly people. So it's a very thickly populated country. So for a country so heavily populated, the competition is obviously more as well. And Yeah, so that's a problem, really. So it's a gift and a curse, I would say. You have opportunities. Whilst you have opportunities, you also have a lot of people vying for the same. We're all looking at that one, oh yeah, that one chance that, we need to have in front of the camera, but there are like 100 applicants for the same job.
Right.
There are like 1,000 applicants for the same role. So, and how do you sort of, do them apart? So casting is a huge industry as well, because so many people come here. Oh my God, it's crazy.
Yeah, you're right. And because there is so many people trying to do the same things. So
yeah, and it's
now,
in every industry, not just films. It's everywhere in advertising, corporates, everywhere. You have a lot of competition. There's so many contenders for one job, so it becomes a little difficult, really.
yeah. Well, but you decided to do something totally different because you're going to be filming abroad. Some of them that you're going to be getting involved with are going to be in other countries, like even in the United States, possibly.
Absolutely.
Are you
That's the idea.
Yeah, to do different moves. Now, if you could film anywhere in the world, where would you like to go to film?
I would love to come to the US because that's where Hollywood is, So obviously, so that's one. I mean, England has always been on my checklist as well. I've seen, I've been raised on a lot of British films. France, another country. I would love to travel anywhere really for my work. I don't mind being out, out of a suitcase and traveling different parts of the world. It's not a biggie for me. You just get me to work with international sort of setups and people from all over the world, and I'll happily do that. I was quite surprised actually. The UAE, the Emirates has a very big, what do you call it, like a big production setup. So there are a lot of films that are being shot internationally, and when I say shot internationally, outside of India or outside of LA, they come to Abu Dhabi or they come to Dubai to shoot because of the ease of shooting, permissions, perhaps ease of equipment, and all of that. And I was quite shocked because I was there for my birthday pre-COVID, and I was spellbound. I was like, wow. There was I think one of the Mission Impossible, one of the films from that series was being, I think the last one was being, a part of it was being shot, or the one that's about to come out was being shot there. A couple of big Hollywood projects, I was like, wow, this is happening in Dubai, and big, huge Bollywood projects as well, with stars and superstars and stuff. And I was quite impressed because I was like, wow, so this is really a global movement now. Like the films have kind of made us come together as well, different cultures, and you see a lot of these cross-cultural films as well happening in the UK because there's a huge population of Indians there, kind of migrated to the UK, so they come up with movies like Bennett, like Beckham, Sugar and Spices. I don't know, a couple of other films which had like a lot of from Amritsar to LA, all of these cross-cultural films that we call it here. Which makes very interesting content because it has the best of both worlds, So I've always been intrigued with that, and I'm like I told you, I feel like part of me is always kind of wanting and craving and yearning to travel and just work with different people in different parts of the world. And it makes it very interesting when I get to do that on job, on a work basis. So it becomes very interesting.
Now, what type of characters do you see yourself playing? What type you like to play? And
strong.
What type of character would you like to? All right. So, do you think would be a character that would be one of the hardest to play for yourself?
I want to start to, this is, I'm going to talk about this for the first time ever in my life. My dream role would be of a prostitute.
Really?
Yes. Really, because
coming.
And that's the beauty of it, because it's strange because when I say a prostitute, it's different meanings to different people in different parts of the world, but I'm talking about like a dance bar girl from or from any part of the world, or a stripper, for example. Because because I've seen these people for real. I've kind of worked with them on a couple of humanitarian projects. It was just so heartwarming and at the same time so intriguing. I was like, how do you do what you do and then still live a life? And so touching, some of these stories, and just the way they switch roles when they get into that, mode of work and basically that's their job at the end of the day. And I just want to normalize that, I want to make it look like it's like another job, yes, but these people also have a life beyond what you see of them. It's so interesting, so interesting. I've done a lot of interesting, powerful roles, very women sort of oriented, perhaps very strong, bold roles, from a lesbian to a transgender to a rape victim. A couple of years ago, there was a very brutal rape story that kind of happened in Delhi, where I live. And that girl was murdered, and it was a very, very brutal story, and nobody was playing that character on stage. And I decided to do that, but I gave it a positive spin, obviously changed the story a little bit, but just how a rape victim kind of emerges from all the trauma, decides to do something with her life, decides to make something of her life, and then gets absorbed by society, by the society around, but after facing a lot of hurdles. So I think those roles really, I feel very strongly for women in many parts of the world, so I like challenging roles. I like roles. I love comedy. I love to watch comedy, and I feel it's one of the most interesting and difficult things to do as well. But I think I'm more of an intense person. Like I really get into the character. I build a backstory. I study. I talk to those people. I want to live their life. I want to be able to translate that onto camera or on stage, and just show the world that this is also reality, because art mirrors reality, right? A lot of the times we find art as a release more than facing the mirror, whilst we should actually be facing the mirror and understanding what's going on around us. But a lot of the times it becomes a release. That's why we like comedy. That's why we like, light-hearted stuff. And normally we shy away from very dark, hard-hitting subjects. But I like that. I really do. I want to be able to be that mirror for the society, for the world, really.
Now, have you ever ridden a horse, or have you ever done, how there are some people that work with animals on film? Have you ever how are you about animals or like riding horses or something like that?
I love animals. I can get along very well with them, I would say. Okay. So I'm doing, like a pet owner myself, and I rescue a lot of dogs and a lot of stray animals in India. So I feel very strongly about animals. So yeah, horse riding. I actually have had my chance with at school, but I've never really taken it to the level where I've had to use it to say, make it a part of my character. For example, I've had to play a role of a character where I had to drown one time. So I had to literally drown in a really scary water body in the mountains, and that was something else. That was like, oh God, that was scary, and I did that. And the director was very happy with me, and other than that, I think I'm open to most things. It's not a problem. In fact, I feel if I'm learning a skill, apart from being an actor, it's a blessing. Who wouldn't want to? So it's a huge blessing then, we get trained. I think I like that. I like to completely switch from who I am as Sonamm to as that particular character. And I think it's here people call it method acting, but it's not method really, because it's not that I'm living that person's life, but I want to stay as close to it as possible. And that's exactly what I do in marketing as well. So if I'm doing a personal branding project for a client, I literally have to, be so close to the client that I have to understand his or her lifestyle, literally spend so much time with him that it automatically kind of translates into that process of imbibing a lot of those traits from whether it's a client or whether it's a character. So it's a very interesting thing. Very interesting, actually. I'm quite glad you brought that up.
Now, if you could play a hero, a superhero, or a villain with either one, who would it be? Which one would it be, and why?
I think I would have a completely new character.
Okay.
I don't know if I want to play something that's already been done, and I think people have already, like actors, are doing a wonderful job of it. So I think I'd like a whole new character. I'm a bit of a, it's a little selfish to say that, but I'm like, kind of catch me a new character and I'll do justice to it. The one thing that I do, Debbie, is I'm very, like I say, it's honesty, and it's also a lot of dedication to the art form, to the craft of acting. So if I'm an actor, I'm wholeheartedly dedicated to my craft. I will be sleeping, living, eating that character, and completely taking it in a way that it kind of becomes a second skin to me. It becomes like my second personality, so to speak. So it becomes easy for me to translate into the character every now and then. And I think that's something I take a lot of pride in. So my process of working kind of makes it easier for me to basically do anything if I want to.
Yes, and you're in the process of a brand new movie that's going to come out in 2023.
Correct.
And it sounds like it's going to be a very interesting movie.
Oh, very interesting. Very, again, very mysterious sort of a story. It's a thriller. It's a sort of a suspense thriller kind of a situation where, I shouldn't reveal a lot right now, but you'll see a lot of it on my social media and when I post about it as well, because I'm also going to promote the film wholeheartedly, because that's another part of what I do. So very interesting. Again, cross-cultural people from the US are traveling to India, traveling to the other parts of Europe. It's very, very cool. So yeah, I like those subjects. I like that. Like I said, that crossover is so important for me too. That it just brings a whole lot of uniqueness to the project, because you have so many talents from so many parts of the world. It's just amazing that you can really get drenched in their energy. It's amazing.
I agree. I think that it's going to make people think twice, because the movie that you're involved with, we can talk more about that on a different time when it gets closer to being released. But
absolutely,
there's so much to that film that I could not believe, and I'm not sure if it's fiction or if it's real. But then again, it's nice to have different stories that are bouncing off real history.
Absolutely. 70% real, I would say. 70% is absolute reality. A little debatable, because some of it is recorded, some of it is kind of spoken to various people, and it's kind of passed on from generation to generation. So it's a very interesting researched topic. However, it's debatable at the same time, because it's anything which is political, anything which is kind of controversial has to have that. So I think it'll be very interesting, and I think it'll give people a whole new perspective on how history has kind of been fed to us and how it really was.
Yes. Now, if you could meet a famous actor or actress, whether she or he is dead or alive, if you could
Mhm.
meet that actor or actress, who would it be?
Actually, it's a very interesting question. But I had a burning desire to meet Kate Blanchett one time, and she happened to come to India, and I did meet her. So I kind of have lived that part of my what do you call it, a desire, a manifestation already. So there was this very interesting program that happens called Women in the World Summit that happens all over the world really. So it was I think it was organized by the New York Times, and they traveled to Delhi, and she was sitting right next to me. So I was gobsmacked. I kid you not, I was absolutely. I've never had a starstruck sort of a, when literally I'm tongue tied, but I've never had that feeling. But Kate Blanchett was sitting next to me, and I was
Wow.
like, "Are you serious?" And she's talking to me, and she actually spoke to me very nicely, very sweetly, very humble person. Um, and there was a little boo-booing happening in the crowd, and she was asking me, "Why are they booing this woman?" And I was telling her it's a little political, this is how it gets here. So she was very intrigued by the whole set up and the Bollywood and the politics and the cultural things that happen here. Very interesting. But I would also, there's so many actors I really admire. So many of them. But you know what? I was heartbroken. I was actually depressed when um, Robin Williams passed away. Robin Williams, sorry. Um, and I think because of his story and depression, that he's mental health issue that he was battling for the longest time. Um, so yeah, a couple of musicians who passed away. A lot of people who I really want to meet, who I admired as artists, whether they were actors, whether they were musicians, singers. It doesn't matter. But obviously they've made their transition and um, sad.
Yeah,
So I
yeah.
remember
It helps you grow
those.
as a person.
Absolutely,
When you
absolutely.
meet somebody that you think you'd never meet in your whole life and you get that chance, it helps you to grow. It's like a weird, but I don't know how to explain it, but I know what you're saying.
Yeah, I mean, a part of me feels so I'm also a mental health ambassador for a lot of initiatives in India. I also work a lot with cancer survivors here, so that also kind of exposes me to a lot of the people internationally because they're either traveling for medical tourism or they're getting their treatments, from the UK or the US, etc., etc. But mental health is very close to my heart because somebody who's kind of also pulled through a certain phase in life. We tend to sort of really, and it's something that's not really given a lot of importance in our country. And I want to change that here. Because it's so important, especially artists. They find their release and expression in the form of arts. There's a reason why we are artists because there's a whole lot of unspoken, unsaid kind of emotions that we kind of tend to really bottle up inside and find a way through our art. Find a way through our what we do really, whether it's anything, whether it's writing music or singing or acting or making paintings, whatever the medium. But mental health. So when I hear of an actor committing suicide, or there was a huge case that happened in India 2 years ago, or if I hear of anyone who's an artist and they've just not been able to cope with the demons that they're fighting within themselves, the challenges that they face. It just really breaks my heart. I just want to reach out and help them. It's just that calling. I just get that itch within me. I just want to do something for people like that and just give them hope. And I know that there are a lot of people here in India who don't talk about it. And I want to change that. I want people to come forward and talk about these things, because otherwise it will get too late, and then it's not nice, to lose someone to that agony, that mental sort of depression.
I agree with you. That's amazing. Is there anything that we didn't mention? Because we're at the top of the hour. Is there anything that we didn't mention that you'd like people to know?
Um, I think I've had a ball of a time, Debbie, with you, um, I don't think we've missed out on anything unless you have anything specific.
I thought it was great. Yeah, we had a great one. Where can people get in touch with you?
So, I'm huge in my social media. Like, I love sharing every hour of the day on my Instagram channels. And so, my stage name is Zafara, which means sapphire. It's Zaffarah, and that's where people can find me. So that's my Instagram handle as well. Or Sonamm Sharma, Sonamm with a double M because that's a distinguisher online. Although my official spelling is with a single M, but this one goes as a double M. And yeah, very easily sort of discoverable on the internet. You just put in Zafara or Sonamm with a double M, Sharma, and you'll find me. So I'm always there. I'm using my social media. It's also part of my job. It's the nature of my work. Marketing and branding, social media and all of that. So,
That's
so I
awesome.
help people, with their social media profiles as well.
Well, thank you so much. We are out of time, but thank you so much. And what a wonderful interview with you. Well, thank you, everybody,
My pleasure. Had a great time. Really did.
so much. And thank you, everybody, for joining us tonight. We'll see you next week. And what a great